and gentlemen, and welcome to episode number 61 of Geeks Who Like Sports. As always, in beautiful Los Angeles, California, I am Ray Carcillo, and over in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, who's living out his TIE Fighter dreams, Lee Elias, my best friend in the entire world. Lee, how are you doing today?
No, sir, I didn't catch you playing with your toys, sir. Yeah. I'm doing well, Ray. It's actually one of those days. It was one of those like 72 degrees spring days today, which we probably don't have too many of them left before the jaws of summer come, and it's 100 degrees here every day and horrible. So other than that, things are good. It looks like quarantine is starting to get lifted up a little bit momentarily. We'll see if that continues. Yeah. We're getting more and more geek news, more and more sports news of both the positive and negative variety. Yes. Which means that our shows are going to be good. And again, as you said, I'm flying my son's, it is my son's, TIE Fighter around. I want to do the, whoa! I can't do the sound effect. I had a friend that could do the sound effect of this. Yeah, I knew somebody could do it really well. But yeah, for those of you not watching, he's got a TIE Fighter. I always try and bring a prop. This is Geeks Who Like Sports. Ray, how are you doing in Los Angeles today?
I am doing well. I am doing well overall. Once I finally showered and ate, I was doing better. Lee knows I get very hangry very easily. I won't even talk to him for those of you listening. If he's hangry and I know it, I won't even bother. There's no point. Yeah, the conversation's horrible. I just don't even. I just say call me back when you're ready. Yes. And I'm ready now. That's why we're doing the show. We do have a big show for you today, folks. We've got a lot to talk about. We've got a lot of, baseball news, non-news. We've also got, of course, the NHL players are starting to skate again, which is a big deal. Yes. We've got some interesting news in the DC front, both video games and in general. But of course, speaking of video games, probably our biggest stories of the day, of the week. Is that we are on the precipice of a brand new Star Wars game officially being revealed. We will talk a bit about that. But first, the biggest thing, we finally got to see the PS5, and it is... I think the system itself looks a bit underwhelming, but the games look pretty good, and that is the most important thing.
The games look great, debuting with the top ever, the most watched live video in YouTube history, which says something that people really were waiting for this thing, as much as we rip on Sony and Xbox and Microsoft. Yeah. People were waiting for this. So do you want to start with the games or the system?
Let's start with the system, because this way we'll get the negative out of the way.
So first things first, let's just say this. We're only talking about the aesthetics of the system right now. We're not talking about the power behind it. We're not talking about the games, just the aesthetics, because, most game consoles have just been missing the mark lately for whatever reason. So for those of you who haven't seen it, let's try and describe it. For those of you who haven't seen the new PlayStation 5, it has been mostly shown in its upright position, and Ray will tell you in a minute about why they're probably trying to get everybody to do that. It looks like Dracula. I don't know how to say it. I feel like every time they unveil a new system, people rip it, but this one looks a little ridiculous. And so does the Xbox X as well. It looks a little, it's like a big rip. Somebody said, I think the best one was, would you like the mini fridge?
Or the modem.
Or the modem, yeah.
Yeah, the modem.
So... I don't know. Here's the question I have. I'm going to ask the question first, and then we'll discuss it. But, I don't know if there's ever a way they could design these things that people will be like, that's really amazing. It just seems like every time that people are going to criticize it no matter what. And it's out of love. I mean, it got a ton of grief. But I keep trying to think, what would the perfect system even look like? What could they make that would be cool? Because they got to make something. They got to make something to differentiate themselves. I mean,
right. Well, I mean, and that's the thing is that I know a lot of folks have always pointed to the GameCube aesthetic as being terrific. I mean, yeah. I mean, but the thing is, at the end of the day, they're boxes, right? That's what they are. They're little black or gray or white boxes
for entertainment. Yeah,
exactly. With disc drives. I mean, that's the thing. At the end of the day, they are mini computers at this point. So, but that's why I think also people are more okay with what Xbox is doing with the Xbox X, because it looks like a computer tower, right? People are like, okay, we get it. With this, it looks like you said, it looks like a weird modem with these kind of slightly curved
so
fins
many
on
jokes. It looks like an air conditioner. You know, what I had said when Ray and I were watching the video, I had said that I bet you that wasn't their final design. They just had to get something out. And I also bet you when Xbox came out with that kind of cube rectangle thing, that I bet you they had a totally different design. Like, we got to change it up.
Yeah.
Because of what they've done. But yeah, like if you haven't seen it, go look it up, or it's on the Geeks pages on Facebook. It's interesting to look at. It's going to get made fun of. It's like the Tesla truck, right? It's making a buzz because it looks so interesting.
Yes.
But yeah, it's out now. You know, Ray, if you know anything else on the aesthetics.
I mean, the only thing I was going to say is that I think the reason why they're showing it always standing up is because one of the things that we've heard about a lot is we need to mention is that supposedly they're still having issues with keeping the system from overheating.
Wow.
And the reason why that they want to show it as much as standing up as possible is because it looks like it has the fans on each side.
Yeah.
So if you lay it down, you're going to be blocking one of the fans, which seems to be like it will be integral to keeping this monstrosity from overheating.
Yeah. Quick PSA for everyone listening. If you have a game console and you have papers or cardboard or anything on top of the fan, get it off the fan now.
Yeah.
Right? And I say that because I know that. I have been to so many people's houses and friends, and it's just there's something on top of it, and it's usually a flat piece of paper or something. Yeah. It's like you cannot cover the fan on your game. You're going to destroy your game console.
Yeah.
All right. So just don't do it.
Yeah. Well, and that's part of the reason why Xbox also designed the new system the way they did. Is that because the verticality of it actually allows it to be cool off easier.
Yeah,
part of the reason why they're pushing, Sony seems to be pushing this vertical upright position. Although they did show for 1 second, literally about a second during the presentation of the hour and 15-minute presentation of it lying horizontally. But that's about it.
Well, here's what I'll say is that, and this is a conversation Ray and I had off the show, we're going to have on the show now, is that I don't even understand why these things need to look like this anymore. They already took up too much power as it was, but, you know, Ray made a really great point. It's like, you know, the Switch is a really strong system, and it doesn't need any of that stuff. It doesn't need any of it. So it makes me wonder, like, do they even need to make them this big anymore? And maybe they do. Like you know, I'm not an engineer. I don't design these things. But, you know, I'm just not buying it with the way things are going. I think these things need to get smaller, not bigger. It's like it's not a piece of jewelry or, like, something I want to show off in my house. Like, you know, I don't know. It's something I want to take with me, if anything. Like, I'm surprised that they're not going more the Switch route, to be perfectly honest with you. But it'll be interesting to see what happens. PlayStation also going from gray to black to black to black to white.
Yes, there will be a black version of the PS5. There will also be a black and red Spider-Man version of the PS5 because there will be, as getting into the games. The big thing about any system is really we can make fun of its aesthetic as much as possible. But I've told people before, as long as it works and lasts me like 6 to 7 years, that's all I really care about, and I care about the games. Yeah. And Sony did come out with a lot of heavy hitters.
And good for them. They needed that. Sorry, they totally needed that.
Yes, I mean they started off a little slow by saying that GTA 5 is being ported to PS5, which nobody wants.
Yeah.
It's like
we just want Vice City back, guys. That's all we want. Just bring me Vice City back.
So the PS2 and early PS3 era, and Xbox 360 era,
the golden age.
Yeah, we had GTA 3, GTA 4, GTA Vice City, GTA San Andreas. Then, towards the end of the PS3 360 era and onward, we've had GTA 5, GTA 5 port, GTA 5 port.
Yeah.
Give us a new game.
Yeah, it's time. It's time. And it's Vice City. That's what people want back. People are screaming for it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I want Vice City back. So it's interesting. It's just an interesting time in gaming in general. Real quick side note before we get back to this. So, Ray, this is going to surprise you and disappoint you at the same time. So I finally bought the Switch Online subscription,
right?
Mainly because I had not had a reason to do it, right? And I was playing one of my friends in Mario Kart, And there's a whole other game that I didn't even know about within Mario Kart. I mean, the different types of games. I mean, they're in the game, but like you don't typically play them unless you're playing online because the online mode forces you to do it.
Right.
And then I stumbled across the Nintendo library.
Yes.
And then I was like, it was like, haunting on Nintendo.
For $20 a year, that ain't bad.
And I was thinking to myself, like, what have I done?
Yeah.
What have I done? But yeah, for those of you who don't know it, the Switch has an online kind of library, and it's pretty much the best of NES, Super NES, all together. You can just play all these games. I mean, I couldn't help but think, Ray, like, all these movies, they go back in time, like, oh, look at all this advanced weaponry. Here's a machine gun for the Civil War. It changes everything. That was from Time Cop, for those of you nerds out there. I love this show because I can reference stuff like that without feeling ashamed of it. That happened in Time Cop. They went back to the Civil War with the Tommy gun, and then the South won the Civil War. Okay? Anyway, South didn't win, but they got some gold. Anyway, go watch the movie, Time Cop, Jean-Claude Van Damme. Really good movie. Pre-Demolition Man. If I could go back, like if I could go back in time to like little Ray, 8-year-old Ray, right? Which would be sometime around 1992, I'm going to say, all right?
93. Yeah.
93. I'm going to go back. I'm going to hand you this Switch. I'm going to magically make the online mode work in 1992 before there's internet.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say, here. And you're going to look at me like, oh, my God. What is this? What's Super Nintendo? I'll be like, yes. Now go watch The Wizard.
Yeah.
And get back to me. When? Back to the future! Because that's how it would have to end the conversation.
Yeah.
Right? I need fuel. All right? I love this show for all those reasons and more. Anyway, I just wanted to say that before we get back into it. So, jumping back into Xbox X and Series X and the PlayStation 5. So, Ray's going to run us through the games he saw. I watched it too, but Ray is the gameologist here, not me. So I'm going to let him run through it. And then we're going to ask the gun to the head question, Ray, at the end of this. Xbox Series X or PlayStation 5? Very original names.
Yeah.
Okay? Both of them. They both failed miserably with this. Actually, I give PlayStation credit for just going, it's 5. We're not going to
just adding one. Yeah, actually, just keeping it simple.
Yeah.
Just keep
Xbox
it simple.
V. Like, they didn't do anything stupid like that.
Yeah.
PlayStation V, PlayStation X. If they do that at 10, I'll kill them. Anyway, Ray, here we go. And here we go.
So we mentioned GTA 5 port. That was a bit disappointing. The next big game that he showed off was actually there's so it's kind of like a standalone expansion like Uncharted, Lost Legacy, and a couple other games they put out. So it's probably won't cost as much as a full-fledged game. And this makes sense because we had heard rumors of what the next Spider-Man full game will actually be in terms of symbiotes and all the other stuff. So the fact that they're making a standalone, it's called Spider-Man Miles Morales. It looks good. We didn't really see anything in terms of villains, but it seems to be Miles coming into his own as a hero, what that means to him, why he's fighting, really fleshing him out, particularly as a character.
Which is smart.
It's very smart. But it's not a full-fledged... I mean, it's gonna be big. It's gonna be big enough. It's probably gonna be like a 10-hour experience. Yeah. But it's not a full-fledged, not a true Spider-Man 2. And I think that was very unclear at first, and I think a lot of people were very disappointed by how that trailer didn't really do. And this is the other hard thing about shows like this is that not having E3 around for journalists to then go up to Sony afterwards and ask all these important questions is. You don't always get a trailer doesn't always get the full message across just on its own.
Yeah. And
that was this case here, and a lot of information trickled down over the weekend on that, and people ended up being disappointed because they didn't find that out that quickly. Then Gran Turismo 7 was announced, which honestly, you had a stopgap game called Gran Turismo Sport in the middle of the generation. You haven't had a full-fledged Gran Turismo game since the end of PlayStation 3. Sony, you've lost so much ground to Forza this generation. That I really don't know who cares that Gran Turismo's got a new chapter coming out. Like, it's just... Look, it's the original great racing simulator.
Yeah, easily.
But at this point, you've been eclipsed by Forza. Yeah. That's just the way... I mean, look, if you're only going to get one system and you need a racing game, then obviously you're happy to see Gran Turismo. But if you're thinking... going between the two systems, Forza beats Gran Turismo in my opinion at this point.
Well, listen, the draw on Gran Turismo, however you say it correctly, when it first came out, some of our younger listeners might not remember the very first one, but the draw was that it was the first game in which the cars looked absolutely real.
Yeah.
You know, like when you watch the replay of your race at the time, I mean, again, like I think if you look back 20 years to see the first one now, it might be a little different. But, it looked like a real – I mean, you thought you were watching a real race. Yeah. All right? And we're not in a time period anymore where that's a big deal, right? And like you said, Forza has completely taken over that marketplace, as you've said. So it comes down to this. Are you making a better game than Forza? All right? Yeah. Probably not, but you're back in the arena. But, like, again, this would be like a second sports franchise just popping up out of nowhere. Hey, we're back. Blades of Steel 2020. Yeah. Like, what the hell are you doing here, guys?
Yeah. Or if EA brought back NBA Live now all of a sudden.
Yeah, it's just like, what are you doing?
Yeah. So that's my thoughts on that. New Ratchet and Clank game looks like a lot of fun. Insomniac had a good show between Ratchet and Clank and Spider-Man. Good for them. Rift Apart, new female protagonist, different worlds, time travel, the whole 9 yards. It looks just like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Project Athia, which we don't know a lot about, game from Square Enix though, looks like a 3D action platformer. Looks solid. Stray from Annapurna. Annapurna Interactive always gives you these really interesting, like, indie-style games, almost, but with a bigger budget, because they're Annapurna. People are going to buy this just for the fact that you play as a kitty cat. That's exactly it. It's not just a cat. You play as a kitty cat because the cat looks so cute, and your dad, it's a stray cat, and you have to fight its way through for food and stuff. And, like, people are going to... Look,
Ray is so dead inside.
Yeah, like, people are going to...
You are so dead inside with that.
I am. I saw this game, and I'm like,
Sorry. If you're listening to this podcast, you need to watch the video just to see him do what he just did. Look for that clip this week.
Yeah. Yeah, like, I don't care about that. I don't care about Bug Snacks. Like, everybody's singing this song about Bug Snacks, which is another game where it's the guys who made Octodad, and it's basically like you play an animal that's also part fruit, and you can eat animal bugs, like, or fruit bugs and stuff. Like, it's a strawberry, and it's alive, and it has eyes and a personality, and you eat it, and you kill it because you're a monster. But, like, it's just... Some of these indie games are a little weird, but people are dumb and people will buy them.
Well,
I shouldn't say they're dumb.
Yeah,
come
on, man. It's creativity. I mean, like, sometimes games come out and I'm like, man, who would even think of that? And then they do well.
Yeah. Well,
Untitled Goose Game.
It's
come on.
Look, they're not for me. They're not.
Sure,
these games
totally
are not
fair.
For me.
No, because you're dead inside.
And I don't understand why people... enjoy them. I don't like. It's the same thing. It's the same thing with freaking Goose Game, Untitled Goose Game. I just don't get. If Bug Snacks wins Game of the Year, I am going to have an aneurysm.
That's right. We're gonna go talk to people about it because we'll be able to at that point.
Yeah. One game I was really super excited for is that Housemarque always has a good Sony game every couple of years, but the game they're making called Returnal, which is basically Edge of Tomorrow crossed with Control.
Yeah.
Looks phenomenal.
It's good trailer.
Yeah. Like, I am super sold for that.
Great name, too, by the way.
Yes. No, definitely.
I have a lot of appreciation for great names, simplistic names that make exactly sense. Like, Returnal makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
And great trailer. Go check that one out if you haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, Returnal is definitely at the top of my list of things I'm excited for next gen. Destruction All-Stars. It looks like it. I didn't play the original Destruction games, and I see this trailer, and all I think is man, I wish somebody was making Twisted Metal instead.
That's exactly what I thought. You know,
yeah,
that's exactly what I thought. I was like, why have they not brought that property back yet?
Yeah, it just. A new Sackboy 3D platformer. We get it. You're really trying to make Sackboy your version of Mario. It's not working, but fine. Kenna Bridge of Spirits looks really good.
Yes.
It looks like Sony's answer to Ori for the Xbox, which Ori and the Blind Forest and Will o' the Wisps. Very much girl in tune with nature has to kind of clear out like the corruption and stuff.
Yeah.
You're very basic 3D action platformer, but looks fun. It looks like a lot of fun.
Well, the visuals looked amazing.
Yes.
In fact, there's an Apple Games game that looks a lot like that too. This one is those aesthetically, visually pleasing games that make your eyes widen up. I don't know much more about it beyond the trailer, obviously, but it looked beautiful. And like that's another part of gaming now that I'm seeing really come to the forefront a little bit more than it was maybe 5 years ago, whereas like the beauty behind design, not the world, but the design of the colors and the way things mesh together, almost like a painting, an artist's rendition. That's a new type of thing I've never seen as prevalent as I'm seeing it now.
Yeah, no, for sure. You're starting to definitely see a lot more of those visually pleasing games, and also because of as technology gets better.
Yeah.
So it's definitely good to see. It's definitely a plus there. I just realized I got yelled at on the internet for one of these because I didn't even if you're on Twitter, you don't realize sometimes when people message you if you're not following them.
Yeah.
But like you use the hashtag, they sometimes find you anyway. So I put the next one is Goodbye Volcano High, and I immediately tweeted out like I'm gonna save you all some money. It ends with a meteor hitting the planet and wiping out everything. Because that's really what it looks. That's really what it looks like. What happens in this game?
Yeah.
It's one of those games where they gave away everything in the trailer, and I have zero interest in that. So
yeah. So for those of you who didn't see it, I mean, essentially, is like dinosaurs in high school, and they just keep alluding to that this thing's going to destroy the Earth. So my hope, Ray, is that they're doing that on purpose because there's a bigger purpose to the game that we don't know about. Yeah. But it's probably not the smartest marketing in the world.
No,
I mean, I feel like I'm watching Dinosaurs, like the show from TGIF when I was a kid. Except
which is coming to Disney Plus, by the way.
Sure, except all the characters are in high school now.
Yeah.
Like that's what it felt like, and I was like, okay, well that show had one of the most depressing endings of all time. Maybe this game will too.
Yeah, exactly. The meteor hits the...
Spoiler alert. They all die because the meteor hits the Earth.
Because they're dinosaurs.
Yeah, and they're just stuck in their house like, what do we do now? Like, well, you're going to starve to death and die.
Yeah.
That's how Dinosaurs ended.
Yeah, it is really sad. It was really sad. Games that we were more excited to see. Oddworld is getting a new chapter. Oddworld Soulstorm.
Abe is back.
Yeah, Abe is back. Ghostwire Tokyo still looks freaking nuts.
Yeah.
I have no idea. It's a horror game. I'm on board.
Yeah.
Mostly because I still don't know a thing about it.
Well, that's sometimes that's the best trailer. The other thing too is the creator of the game came on before. Was he speaking Japanese or Chinese? His
Japanese.
native tongue, and which I really appreciated that they didn't dub him over. But he essentially said this is the most realistic version of Tokyo I think ever made. Right? So that'll be interesting. By the way, just going back to Oddworld real quick, I love that, and this is not a spoiler because it's in the trailer. I love that the big tense moment was Abe about to cut off the bandages or cut off the bands on his mouth. Mm-hmm. I love that that's the big tense moment. Like, oh my God, is he gonna do it? And I'm just like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care if he does that. It's not like Assassin's Creed when the blade came on the top. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. No, exactly.
Anyway, I thought that was pretty funny.
That was funny. Jet the Far Shore. It's a futuristic. I don't honestly know anything else about it except for it's set in the future and it looks like you're in space. Maybe a space exploration game.
Well, that's never been done before, Ray. So don't judge.
Yeah,
ever. Yeah, future space exploration.
Yeah. So that's a. Godfall. I was excited about Godfall when it was teased at the Game Awards. Now that I saw more of it, I don't care at all about this game. It looks like Gearbox is missing the mark once again with this one. They're all about look at the armor, look at the weapons, and I'm like, yeah, that's Borderlands, man. I don't care.
Yeah.
Just stick with that. Like that. Give me something different. Like
this was the trailer where it said in the trailer. And Ray, correct me if I'm wrong, but it said something like what was the word about the weapons? It said breathtaking weapons.
Yeah.
And then they showed him wielding weapons, and I remember thinking, this did not take my breath away.
Yeah.
And then it was like God-like armor. I was like, don't care.
Yeah, like it's
right?
called
like, I hate
Godfall.
to be the
like,
I hate to be the Debbie Downer here, but I was like, nothing in that trailer. It was like, it's like, here's the biggest hype ever, and then here's a real disappointing clip every time. I was like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't get it. They announced the new Astro Boy game, which is fine.
Okay.
Now we're starting to get into the good announcements.
Here we go.
We mentioned Bugsnax. Oh yeah. Oh, also they showed very briefly NBA 2K21,
Yeah.
which
Well, they didn't really show
again,
it. There's this trailer, but yeah.
They gave the trailer. We get it. It's probably Zion Williamson's probably the cover athlete. You'll spend $60 and have to spend another $600 to unlock the rest of the game.
But Ray, he sweats in the game. Really good looking.
Yeah.
It looks like real sweat. It's like a Gatorade commercial.
Yes. Demon Souls is getting a remake. That is true. That's a big deal for folks who might have missed, who have gotten to Dark Souls and Bloodborne and games of that nature. This is the father of that series, like that genre, right? And it's been like, and so a lot of folks who missed it the first time around, you'll get a remake of that. I'm super excited because new Hitman game is coming. They announced Hitman 3. That's gonna be one of the first titles out January for PS5, so that is a huge deal. Agent 47 is back. It looks awesome. An indie game called Little Devil Inside looks super intriguing because it's a dichotomy.
It would for you.
Like it's so well, 'cause it's my kind of humor, right?
I just said that.
Like it's so you have like this. They keep cutting between this like old man doing very mundane things, and then they cut back to this kid like surviving against giant beasts and in the wild and like trying to find shelter in the rain. And then you cut back to the old man. He's like taking a dump, and then you cut back to the kid and he's fighting this monster. And it's like it's just a really interesting. It's got a Monty Python kind of vibe to it almost, and that kind of already has me intrigued. Even though it's probably less comedy than the trailer made it out to be. I'm on board to learn more, because that's my style of humor. Deathloop from Bethesda looks phenomenal. Where again, it's another one of these games basically where you're in a persistent world where you are aware of the fact that you are dying and that you come back and you're reborn again and again and again. But it's got a 1960s kind of almost a 1960s like spy movie vibe. Yeah. Which looks really cool and like a lot of fun. And then the two big ones, Resident Evil 8, The Village, where it looks like you're taking on like werewolves and vampires, not just zombies, which looks freaking amazing. I am super pumped for this. You gotta remember, Resident Evil 7 was my game of the year a few years ago, so like this is like the fact that they're going into like a European village. Chris Redfield's back. It's like the whole 9 yards, and supposedly this is the end of Chris Redfield's story. So, like, is Chris gonna die? Is, like, what's gonna happen here? Like, so much on the line. So pumped to see that. And then also Horizon Forbidden West, the long-awaited sequel to Horizon Zero Dawn, which is also another strong Game of the Year contender. A tremendous game where you fight robot dinosaurs all day. All for that. And you do it with a bow and arrow, by the way, like for most of the game. Like, just awesome if you haven't played it. So that's finally getting a sequel. That was a 1-2 punch at the end of Sony's presser that really ended this on a super high note for me.
I just want to also compliment Sony for the way they broadcasted this. There were no frills. There was no interruptions. It was game after game after game. The only thing between the games and that little weird wallpaper screens that they kept showing of the Xbox controller buttons was just the creators of the game sometimes had something to say about their game. Yeah. But it was just well done. Like, they didn't waste anybody's time. You know what I mean? At least I didn't feel like that. I mean, you had to sit through the whole thing, but you know, it was well done in the current environment that we're living in. Mm-hmm. So Ray, this brings it now. We're a little high on PlayStation because this stuff just came out.
Yeah.
Gun to the head. It's not a phrase I'm not going to use here. Gun to the head. Xbox or PlayStation?
Xbox.
Okay. That wasn't even there was no hesitation there. Ray is going for the Xbox Series X.
Yes. Here's why. And at least right now, and I can change my mind. But as of right now,
well, not if there's a gun to your head. I mean, that's why I said.
Well, yes, I mean, yeah, okay, yes, but
I'm just teasing you. Go ahead.
Yes. Right now, all rumors are pointing to the Xbox is going to be cheaper than the PlayStation.
Yep.
The Xbox is going to be more powerful than the PlayStation.
More affordable.
Right. Yes. I should say yes. Yes. They're both likely. They're both easily going to be at least 400. They might be as high as 600 or 700. But that's one of the big disappointments of this showcase was there was no price point given.
Yeah, they're not going to do that. This is a game that goes on till Q4.
Yeah. But they also did show a version that would have a hard drive or have a disk drive, and one that wouldn't.
Yeah.
And I'd have to imagine that the one that doesn't would be a little bit cheaper. But it's going to be interesting to see what exactly what price point they come in at. But if it's true that, and also I really hope that the problems that Sony seems to be having with the heat are resolved sooner rather than later. Because we all remember what happened with the Red Rings of Death with the Xbox 360.
Yes.
If Sony has that kind of scenario on their hands, this could be an absolute unmitigated disaster if they don't have their stuff in order by the time they launch. But yeah, I mean, and here's the thing too: a lot of the games I talked about, Hitman, Resident Evil, those are going to be on all systems.
Well,
right?
yeah,
they were shown off here, but they're on all they're all systems. That's third party.
Yeah, I mean, look, the only PlayStation exclusives are really Spider-Man right now, right? That's it.
Spider-Man and Horizon.
Yeah, that's it. And because baseball's even going everything next year too, if you're a sports fan. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I think Xbox has just had less problems this time around, but it's one of those things of like, when it launches, it could change everything. I mean, the best case scenario is that for those of you listening is if Ray can't decide, that means you win either way. That was a pretty clear win for Xbox. And then, where does Nintendo go from here, Ray? Like I said, they're always an outlier.
I mean, I think that's the thing is they are just kind of staying the course.
Yeah.
Right. Like right now, Switch is the most popular system by far.
It is a great system. It is.
Yes.
It is the most innovative system. It is the smartest system. Bang for your buck. Yeah. For families, for everything. Again, I think most homes are starting to have 2 systems minimum now. But
yes.
I mean, the Switch is amazing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think that they, obviously they had a huge hit in their hands with Animal Crossing. They got Paper Mario coming out in July. Yeah. I would be surprised if they didn't come out with a big announcement of their own, whether it's the release date for the next Zelda game or the next Metroid game or something, because they're probably another 3 years away from releasing any sort of new hardware.
Well, here's the thing I was going to ask you is that the next big evolution for Switch for me, and they've kind of steadily been going this way, but nothing massive, is like, look, all the big games are coming out on Switch. Like that hasn't happened yet. And there's reasons for that. Like I said, I don't know if the Switch can handle some of those games, to be fair. But like that's the next big thing is like, look, all the EA Sports games are coming out on Switch. Every game you love that's not exclusive is coming out on Switch. To me, that's the next evolution of that platform. Yeah. But to be fair, at the same time, a lot of these companies might not want that because then Switch would just take over completely at that point. And then people would be asking what I asked at the beginning of the show is why do they have to make these towers so gigantic? Why does the PlayStation 5 look like the Eye of Sauron? Yeah. You know what I mean? Why is it like Dracula? One more question before we transition because we've been talking about this for a while. Resident Evil.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the evolution of them going beyond zombies to more of the monsters universe with vampires, with werewolves? Like natural progression, time to do it, not a good thing because it's a zombie game. How do you feel about that from a storytelling point of view?
I'm actually okay with it because remember they always called the zombies in the game bioorganic weapons, right?
Yeah.
Like the idea was that you were transforming, and especially even in later games, even more so, where you saw the zombies would actually be taller than a normal person, kind of being these more like hulking, even though they're still zombies, but they would transform more. I think the idea of playing with that lore and just being like, this is a new strain of virus. This is, you had the T virus and you had the G virus and you had all these other. It's a new strain of virus now. where we can make werewolf-like creatures or vampire-like creatures to go along with the lickers and all the other monsters. Because you gotta remember, they've had other monsters over the course of the years. Giant mutated alligators, right? Giant mutated, again, the lickers. You had giant snakes. All kinds of different crazy creatures they've had over the years. So the idea that they're playing now with a bit more classic horror, I think just makes a ton of sense and is a lot of fun. And the idea that they're going back to kind of an old European town, kind of similar to what they did with Resident Evil 4, which really saved the series. If you remember, after Resident Evil 3, people had really and Code Veronica, people had really gotten off board with it, to the point where that Capcom, Microsoft and Sony wanted nothing to do with Resident Evil 4. Remember, Resident Evil 4 was originally a GameCube exclusive. Nintendo was the only one who was willing to put that game on their consoles at first, and then it turned into a huge hit. And that's when Sony's like, give us a version, and Microsoft's like, give us a version. And
I remember that. I remember that game came out.
Yeah,
I remember the chainsaw deaths for the first time.
Yeah, because we were in college. I think I was a freshman, you were a sophomore. I think when that came out, and it was like, it was such a big deal. It saved the franchise. So for them to kind of go back to that kind of a setting, but really lean into that like old European motif with some of these creatures, I'm all for it. I love the idea that it's called a village, building on what they did with Resident Evil 7, which was obviously an old Deep South plantation. You had a few homes there and a lot of like farmland. Now you're gonna have a bunch of old school buildings, a lot of dark corners to explore, a lot of opportunities for jump scares, which my heart probably can't take, but what are you gonna do? But for those of you who enjoy the jump scares over the gore, or the gore, I should say, because I liked Resident Evil 7 a lot because of its atmospheric horror more than the jumps. It had a lot less jump scares and a lot more atmosphere, and I think that's again more what they're leaning into. So I am very, very excited for Resident Evil 8 coming out next year.
Yeah, no, it's a great thing. I just wanted to get your thoughts on it. Yeah,
no, I'm super, super pumped for that. I'm also super, super pumped. I know this was a very long segment, folks. We appreciate you all sticking around. But tomorrow, probably right after or right around when the episode is airing, we are finally getting a deep dive into Star Wars Squadrons, which we talked about it last week. It is the there's the TIE Fighter. Yeah, I can't do the sound. Anyway, so Star Wars Maverick is now officially called Star Wars Squadrons. Maverick, we now realize the reason why it was called Maverick is that it is in the vein of Rogue Squadron. It is a flying game. It is X-Wings and TIE Fighters, and they've already said pilots needed. Like they're already started a lot of the big campaign pushes for this, and this is a big deal. My only concern is that it's being done by EA Motive. These are the guys who did the flying for Battlefront, and the flying in Battlefront wasn't really great.
No, people skipped it.
Yeah, it wasn't as strong as it could have been or should have been. So I hope they get closer to the actual Rogue Squadron roots from the old GameCube and N64 days. But we got to see, right? But I'm still excited to see the trailer. I'm excited that they finally have listened to us to give us a damn flying game, because people have been asking for this for literally years now. And it also shows why they had like a Mandalorian in part of it as well, because they also said you'll get to fly a lot of the iconic ships in Star Wars. So I have to imagine that means the Millennium Falcon, the Slave One, and things of that nature. So
here's the deal for those of you who don't know Star Wars flying game history. This goes back to the PC days. X-Wing versus TIE Fighter.
Yes.
Kind of eclipsed with Rogue Squadron for the N64. To me, that was the peak of flying games for Star Wars, which is really funny for those who don't know, they're following the channel. I just hooked up my N64. That was one of the first games I popped in today, was Rogue Squadron. I was playing it, too. I started playing it. Yeah. But there has not been a flying game as good as Rogue Squadron since Rogue Squadron, and we're coming up on 20 years now.
Yeah.
If not 20 years already. Actually, I'm thinking about it.
I think next year's 20 years. I think.
Yeah, so
the
it's
last
time.
Rogue Squadron was 2001.
Yeah, and Rogue Squadron was a really great game because it didn't have to rely on storytelling because the story was already there.
Yeah.
So enough time has passed. I mean, and what I mean by that is you did Hoth, you did the Death Star trench run. You knew what you were doing. We haven't seen those missions in a long time.
Yeah.
Plus, you can play off the prequels, you can play off the new movies, and you can play off the Mandalorian. So, that's what makes good flying games. Is Rogue Squadron had this great mix of traditional storytelling, or leaning on the Star Wars story, or they put you in a place where you knew what the story was doing. I remember there was one point where you have to destroy a Imperial facility that opens up the door for what's happening in Empire Strikes Back. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of kind of that kind of stuff. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm hoping to be wowed tomorrow, and I'm hoping that it's to the point that one of the things about Battlefront was that I get sick to my stomach sometimes playing that game just because of the way it was built, and it's like I don't want to deal with that. Yeah. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. No, that's my main concern with this is I'm sure it's going to look great, but how is it going to feel? How is it going to play? Is it going to be Rogue Squadron or is it going to be Battlefront? Because if it's Battlefront, you're going to have a lot of really mad Star Wars fans because
I got nauseous playing that game. I mean, maybe it's my age, but I get nauseous. Like the thing with Rogue Squadron was it didn't overdo it.
For the idea of trying to be realistic is like, oh yeah, you're going to feel like a real freaking pilot. I'm like, that's fun. No, give us something that's fun. Yeah. Like focus on making something fun.
Yeah.
Because Star Wars already isn't realistic. Yeah. Right, like it's not.
If I want a flight simulator, I'll buy Flight Simulator.
Exactly, like we got the Force and lightsabers and X-wings and TIE fighters and A-wings and B-wings and Y-wings and TIE interceptors and TIE advanced and all these and Death Stars. Realism is out the window.
This is an E-Web heavy blaster.
Yes, have fun with the universe that you're playing in EA. Otherwise, you're going to end up losing the license because.
Well, as of today, that would not be a bad thing.
No, as of today, it would not. They've made one good Star Wars game, and that was Fallen Order.
Fallen Order, yeah. Because there's story.
Yeah,
think about that, EA. The games that have worked have had a good story.
Yeah.
That's the only difference.
Yeah, so hopefully they figure it out. But yeah, so that'll probably do it for us in terms of video game talk. But yeah, no, I mean, and obviously for those who thought it was not the this is not nothing to do with the canceled game Star Wars 1313. This has nothing to do with that. It's a brand new all game. But speaking of things that have been canceled, a lot of things being canceled lately. Hartley Sawyer, who plays Ralph Dibny on The Flash. People have dug out, and by the way, these were tweets that he deleted, but because of a thing called the Wayback Machine, people went and dug this stuff up, and basically got the dude fired for some insensitive. Now, look, he did not. The things he said were not good, right? Like, and although they weren't, not to quantify it, I've also heard a lot worse, but way worse. Yeah, way worse. But it's especially to get a guy fired. It was also 8 years ago, and I just find it kind of sickeningly ironic that DC, who after James Gunn got fired by Disney for stuff that he said 10 years ago and apologized for and deleted and all this other stuff,
which was way worse.
Oh yeah, he said way worse things than Hartley did. That DC would then turn around and do the exact same thing Disney did after they hired James Gunn. After they snatched him up after Disney fired him. Now, of course, Disney ended up rehiring him. There was a huge push for this. But, honestly, I think cancel culture has gotten a little out of hand in certain regards. And at some point, we have to understand that people grow, people change. And that's something that he said that, look, he even admitted, he said, I was a stupid kid in college when I said those things 8 years ago. And he apologized for them, and he had even deleted them a long time ago before this even had happened. Somebody purposely went out of their way. Again, how malicious must be your intent be to go to dig up somebody's Twitter history just to ruin them? I don't understand why this is, of all the terrible people in the world, Of all the terrible things that are happening, I'm going to find that guy who plays a small character on The Flash, and I'm going to find out what he said when he was a teenager so I can destroy him. Because I don't like him as elongated man. What's the matter with you?
It's a mix of a few things. One is that, shame on them for firing him for this. All right. Yeah. Again, we're not going to read the tweets, but I can tell you they are mildly offensive, from where I stand. Okay, and they probably would not have been taken as offensive 8 years ago. It doesn't negate the fact that they're offensive today, but this is too much. This is too much. And he said, quote, "Thank you for keeping me accountable." Like the guy learned. This is a good lesson of someone learning.
Yeah,
and they fired. So that tells me maybe they wanted him off the show, or there maybe might be more to it. But
there were rumors that there were some contract disputes, of course, and we've talked about this before on the show. How every Disney production, with the Marvel films, the Mandalorian, everybody feels like a family. Everybody feels really tight knit. With DC, everybody's at war with each other. It's really kind of terrible. Part of the Echo Kellum, who played Mr. Terrific, wanted off the show, wanted off of Arrow and Flash after season 6. He's like, I'm done. Don't renew my contract. I'm sick of this. I'm out. Ralph Dibny's who he plays. Hartley Sawyer supposedly was deep into contract negotiations, wanted more money, obviously to deal with the garbage that supposedly he has to deal with on set that all these guys are supposedly dealing with on DC sets. And obviously, like you said, Lee, this also could have been a chance. This could have been, whoever did this could just have easily been a DC employee looking for a reason to get rid of him and to kind of bring these contract talks, which have frequently stalled or frequently get dragged through the mud. Just look at what happened. It took years for them to possibly think about bringing back Henry Cavill.
Yeah. It's a mess.
DC in general is just a mess. So it's kind of sad, though, that they also look like hypocrites because they went and hired James Gunn, and then they fired this guy for basically the same exact thing.
Again, it wasn't even close to being the same. That's what kills me in terms of it's the same scenario.
James Gunn's was way worse, yeah.
James. I mean, I didn't think James Gunn should have been fired for what he said, and it was horrible.
I agree.
So it's just, it's just weakness. Speaking of cancellations at DC, though, Ray.
Oh, you read my mind, Lee. Yes. Yeah. The other thing that got canceled, probably in the first move before DC Universe begins its inevitable merge with HBO Max, DC Daily was canceled after 400 some odd episodes, about 250 of which I wrote. They're done, and I also found out, unfortunately, I think they're also shuttering the studio that they shot out of it. So a lot of folks losing their jobs at the end of June. It is what it is. Personally, I was surprised the show lasted as long as it did. Lee knows I was super stressed because I was constantly thinking that we were all going to lose our jobs at some point while I was there because I never thought the show was going to last as long as it did. Because I still believe this. I think it really talked down to the fans a lot more than
absolutely talked down to the fans as someone who watched it.
Yeah, and it was. Trust me, that was not. That wasn't. I never wanted to write that show. At least the way it was.
Here's what I'll say, Ray, is that because I got to see a lot of the stuff that you did in terms of behind the scenes. I never saw what you did before it was out. I mean, you were very good about not doing that, but. Excuse me. This is what they did wrong. It was, as you said, they talked down to fans. It wasn't deep enough into methodology or mythology. It was always surface stuff. It was lazily produced.
Yeah.
Okay. And what I mean by lazy production is just get it out, just get it out, just get it out. Like, well, we'll put this out to this today. We'll put that out today. No real regard for the show outside the first episode with Kevin Smith.
Right.
Which really dived into it, but like not enough fan interaction. And it was just very surface, just fluff. And it's like, that's not what they needed that show to be. Yeah. Or if they needed it to be that, it shouldn't have been that long. There should have been sections that were deeper about the comics and about other things. But, it was, it's a failed experiment. It was very obvious early on that this was not going to work in its current format. And they didn't change. Not to mention you had a lot of different hosts. Some who clearly knew what they were talking about, some who clearly had no idea what they were talking about, which is a major problem. I can't imagine what that must have been like as a writer. And then, like I said, look, when you're messing in a mythology like DC, you need to know your stuff. You do. I mean, or at least research a little bit. And that show just, I mean, I don't know what it, I don't know what to compare it with. It just was surface and fluff, and it was not worthy. I mean, like, I'd rather watch fan-made clips on YouTube about the Marvel Universe than this.
Yeah.
I hate to be scathing. It just was not. It was such a lazy production in terms of what they put out each day. That has nothing to do with your writing. But you know, here's the thing. You know damn well you wrote stuff that didn't even get on air that should have been on air because it was too complex, quote unquote, too complex for the audience.
If you all knew how much I had to water my stuff down by the time I was there, it was basically like, because I could write. I mean, because I also wrote, and the things that I was proud about writing was the DC Universe Presents, which was those 4-minute, 5-minute mini documentaries that were deep dives, and that they did allow me to kind of show off my knowledge as a writer and stuff. But unfortunately, like you said, you know, I'm not gonna name names, not gonna point fingers, but I think that they tried so desperately just to get big internet personalities, most of which I had never even heard of before, in order to just try and hit a certain demographic or a certain audience. And they, again, DC missing the point, completely insulting their core fans, not understanding their audience. And it just, look, the show was, it was a good, I don't know.
Let me jump in here. Last thing I'll say on it, then we'll move on, is this. For those of you listening, this was a DC Universe only show. You couldn't get it anywhere else, so you had to subscribe to the service to see it. So 99% chance, if you're subscribing to this, you're probably a pretty big DC fan. All right? So you probably have some knowledge. You didn't just buy it to buy it. Like, I just don't believe that, right?
Yeah.
Then you make a show that really should just be a Saturday morning cartoon type show for kids that you should have put on CW or the internet, just YouTube. This was not the right show for that app. If you're gonna make a niche network, you need to be niche with your content.
Yeah.
Okay. There's a reason why I equate this to sports. There's a reason why when you go watch baseball games, or football games, or hockey games, or NBA games, they don't explain to you how the game works every game. They assume you already know how basketball is played. Yep. Okay. I remember that the NHL did this experiment one time. They actually did okay. And I'll tell you why. It was they did this kind of broadcast where it was like, look, we're doing a broadcast for people who have never watched hockey before. So this broadcast is going to be much more tailored towards this is what this rule is, this is how it works. If it's not for you, don't watch. Did really well because they had came out and said that. But DC Daily for me would be like going to an NHL game, and then like every game, like, hey, say, did you know that Wayne Gretzky was the all-time leading goal scorer and point scorer in NHL history? I didn't know that, Bob. What else you got? Oh, this is a picture of Gordie Howe. He was a great player. Oh, wow, look at that. He wore number 9. I know. That's what it felt like watching that show. You know, and just not any interaction with like deep dive conversations, like, top 10, like, these are the things that you didn't know about that happened in the MCU that are throwbacks to this movie. Like, that's the stuff people want. At least I think so. So, R.I.P. DC Daily, whatever. Moving on.
No, I mean, again, it was. I saw the writing on the wall a long time ago, and that's why I was constantly stressed because I was genuinely I'm shocked it lasted as long as it did. Anyway, something else that's on the chopping block at Warner Brothers, which is very unfortunate, and it just also goes to show how little the people up top understand. One of Warner Brothers' most profitable divisions is their video game division, Warner Brothers Interactive Entertainment.
Yes.
AT&T, though, doesn't seem to understand this. And so this is much like Disney got rid of all their video game companies a few years ago, but that was after Disney had many, many flops in a row for video games, and they decided to just be easier to license things out. Warner Brothers, after the success of Mortal Kombat, the success of Injustice, the success of all the Lego games, the success of all the Batman Arkham games, they decided that they don't want to be successful anymore. They're probably looking to be. They probably want to get rid of their video game division and sell them to somebody else, along with probably these licenses for all these major characters. I don't understand why Warner Brothers Interactive Entertainment, and this was true for the year and a half I was there, is the redheaded stepchild of that company
because it succeeded. That's why.
Yeah, it makes
this.
It just makes zero sense to me whatsoever. Because I thought being successful was what you wanted in the industry.
At good organizations, yes.
Oh, and it's very, very sad to see that Warner Brothers Games is on the Warner Brothers Interactive Entertainment is on the chopping block. Supposedly AT&T's asking for $4 billion, and EA, Activision, and Take-Two, that's the parent company of Rockstar that makes GTA, all seem to be interested. Also, they do 2K and Borderlands and all that other stuff. So, so they would be very interested to see a Rockstar-made Batman game, or an Activision-made Superman game, or anything of that ilk. But I mean, I guess part of me does hope they do get sold, just because I want those guys, because there's a lot of really good people over there, a lot of people that I know who I want them to have nothing but the best success because they deserve it, because they worked their tails off and made great products for so many years, and to not be appreciated at a terrible company like Warner Brothers is really a tragedy.
Yeah, I was just about to agree with you on that. It's like, I want this to happen because they're doing it. Can you imagine how good these games would be if they're not working under that kind of pressure? Now, some people might say that, well, that's why they're so great, is because of the pressure. I don't agree. This is an artistic field. And I think that if they're able to have a little more freedom, they can make even better games. So, you told me this the other day. I actually texted back to Ray. I said, this is good news. Yeah. And Ray said, we'll see. But I think it's good news. I think it's great. You want to have those properties in the right hands, and it's not in the right hands right now. They don't deserve it. They don't deserve it. Okay? No, that's in my opinion. They don't deserve it. All right? Those people deserve better.
No, and it's very, very true. And it's, I hope for nothing but the best for a lot of those folks, because the sad thing is also is that if there is a sale, if there is some sort of a merger or whatever, is that people will probably lose their jobs. So that usually that's what happens whenever there's any kind of a sale or merger or anything. I saw it when AT&T bought us while I was there. Every month, people getting laid off. Every month, it just was. It's a terrible scenario, and that's why I said, and that's why I also say that it might not be the best thing, because there are a lot of good, talented people there who hopefully will move on to bigger and better things if they do end up on the chopping block because of any sort of weird merger, or sale or anything of that nature. But yeah, I just want them to make good games. They have been making good games. I want them to keep making good games, and I hope that. At the end of the day, that this will all work out for everybody involved, except for AT&T, because screw them. So also, and some more continuing sad news. We have to mention there was a couple of passings this week. First off, Mel Winkler, who did the voice of Lucius Fox in Batman the Animated Series. He's also Aku Aku in Crash Bandicoot, amongst many, 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 many other voice roles and live-action roles. He passed away at the age of 78. And also, unfortunately, this week, Denny O'Neil at the age of 81. For those of you who don't know who Denny O'Neil is, Denny O'Neil, for 30 years, basically, the reason why we have the modern Batman, and even a lot of the modern Green Lantern, and a lot of the modern Green Arrow, and a lot of the great heroes that we currently have right now, and the way they act and are portrayed, is because of the work that Denny O'Neil did in the 70s and 80s. He created Ra's al Ghul. Along with Neil Adams and Julius Schwartz, basically, with Neil Adams, helped bring Batman to his darker roots again in the early 70s and got him away from the camp. He made the Joker a real threat again. He made the Joker really dark again in the 70s, and a lot of people credit that. That led to things like Frank Miller's Year One and Alan Moore's The Killing Joke and things like that. So a lot of the modern stuff we love about Batman, we can trace back to Denny O'Neil. So we truly lost a legend this week in his passing. So wanted to briefly mention that. Our last geeky thing of the day. Lee, you wanted to talk about The Sopranos?
I did.
I was super surprised about this because I'm the Italian guy from Jersey, but you wanted to talk about The Sopranos? What's up with The Sopranos?
So for those of you who so if you haven't watched The Sopranos and you plan to, this is a spoiler alert. But if you didn't, if you don't know this, I don't know where you've been. So It has accidentally been confirmed what actually happened at the end of this series. Once again, spoiler alert if you've never seen or heard about the last episode. So there's been a lot of speculation. I just want to confirm this for our listeners that the way that episode ended was Tony is in a diner with his family. His daughter walks in and the screen goes black, and that's how it ends. And we've been speculating for years that he is killed, and that's how it ends. But no one knows, and everybody was losing their mind. This is over 10 years ago now this ended. Well, the writer and creator of the show accidentally referred to that as the death scene. And what's really funny is he referred to his death scene, and the person asking him the question said, you just referred to that as a death scene. And apparently they said there was silence in the room, and he said, "Fuck you." Right? And it's out there. So Tony Soprano was murdered in that scene, which goes a lot with, if you watch that season.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah, they allude to it several times. They talk about death, like, what do you think happens when you die? And one of the characters says it just goes black. That's the end. So confirmed, whether you wanted it or not, that he is shot in the head, and that's how it ends. You don't get to go. Now, I've always said the beauty, because a lot of people hated that ending. All right, but look, it's been a while with Game of Thrones and Lost and all these other shows ending. The brilliance of that ending, and I've always said this, it's painful to watch, especially when you were watching that show for years. The brilliance of the ending is the person who gets murdered, the person who gets assassinated is the viewer. And I've always said that is the biggest genius of that show, is that you just don't get, how many shows kill you as a viewer? You are murdered at the end of that show. It's over. It's done. You don't get to see what happens. I thought that was artistically brave as hell and well done. Tony Soprano dead at the age of whatever he was at the show.
Yeah, somewhere in his 40s, and of course.
Yeah, dead. And James Gandolfini's dead, so it's not like there was going to be a sequel anyway.
Yeah. So.
But yeah, listen. Yeah, look, we were living in New Jersey, Ray, when that show was out. We were there when they were filming it. A lot of it was filmed in the town where we went to college, so we had some personal.
College where I went to school, high school, and stuff too.
Yeah. So there you go. For those of you who watch The Sopranos, now you know. Now you can put it. It's been a while. You can finally put that into your casket, bury it, and move on with your life.
There you go.
Those of you that needed to know, for New Jersey listeners.
Oh, goodness. All right, so that does it for our geek section. A bit longer than normal today, but we had a lot of stuff to talk about.
That's okay, yeah.
Yeah, no, of course it's all right. It just, so moving on to sports now. We'll do a couple of quick, smaller sports stories, just kind of rattle them off real quick. For you wrestling fans out there, there's a lot of hoopla this week because Bruce Pritchard, better known commonly as Brother Love, from the early 90s, but also a key executive behind the scenes for WWE many years. Was for a long time, I guess he was writing with SmackDown. Now he's in charge of all WWE programming, and Paul Heyman, who was in charge of Raw, is now basically been relegated to an on-air only role, which is interesting. This is happened before, where Vince, for some reason, gets all uppity with Paul and then demotes Paul and then re-promotes Paul and all this other stuff. But to be honest, WWE programming sucked a lot lately, so I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. But we'll see, because, again, Bruce is a lifer. He knows his stuff, and SmackDown was actually one of the better of the two shows, so maybe this will be a good thing in the long run. Any thoughts, Lee?
Nope.
Great. Fantastic. Moving on.
We gotta keep moving.
Cody Stamann beats Brian Kelleher in a UFC battle. Cody improves to 19-2-1, which is damn impressive in UFC. But it was the real story was this, that he lost his brother, his younger brother, less than a week before the bout. And Cody actually just broke down in the middle of the octagon after being declared the winner by unanimous decision. And it was just a really touching moment because obviously the dude was so focused on the fight that he really didn't have a chance to process probably didn't let himself process emotionally a lot of that stuff. And as soon as the fight was over, and you see this a lot with a lot of fighters, right, when they're so focused on that goal, that competition, that the opponent, and then it just seemed to all hit him at once. Even Joe Rogan was crying in the interview, talking to him afterwards.
I saw that too. Yeah, it's a Michael Jordan championship moment after his father was murdered. Look, I've never been in a situation where I lost a family member that close, but I have been in situations where I've been extremely focused on the game or the match that I'm in, and then it ends, and it's like you're kind of left with your thoughts, or your thoughts kind of hit you. When you take that level of focus away, it can hit you. And I give him credit for allowing his emotions to come through. I give Rogan credit for allowing his emotions to come through. I mean, sports are everything. I mean, I always hear people say, "Oh, it's just a game," and it is, but there's so much human triumph and sorrow and pain and joy in sports. I mean, it just shows us the best we can be, and the worst we can be. I mean, it's a microcosm of us. So, I think that was a beautiful moment, and big deal.
Yeah, no, for sure, and congrats to him, and we're sorry for his loss. Also, speaking of a big deal, though, NHL players have started skating again. Which is, I guess, exactly. He's happy about that. Means we are one step closer to hockey coming back.
It's getting too close now. Now I'm starting to get antsy about it. Like before, I was like, oh, if it happens, it happens. Now I'm like, okay, we're almost there. I kind of want to watch hockey.
Do we have an official start date yet?
They're saying July 15th it's temporary. So what's happening is the players are out there practicing in a social distancing environment. So it's kind of funny to watch. They can't do drills next to each other.
Right.
But they're skating, and then it sounds like mid-July is when the games will start. It's funny. We just talk about this with emotion and how focused we are. So I kind of shut myself off from the game a little bit. To at least watching it and thinking about it and playing it. Okay, talking about it's a little different for me because I have another channel where I do that. But I shut myself up and shut myself off to the game, shut myself off to the force, if you will. And the other day I kind of opened up to it a little bit and felt oh man, I could watch the Flyers, and I was immediately shut the door. Shut the door! You can't feel this right now. So I'm cautiously optimistic, whereas I was just cautious before. But it's exciting to see athletes getting ready to play sports. We desperately need sports back right now.
Yes.
Not as a distraction from what's going on in the world, in terms of not COVID-19 stuff.
Yeah.
All right, but as just we need something else. We need something good that's gonna just give us a slice of life back a little bit at this point. I mean, it's a break we need. I don't know how else to say it, okay?
Yeah.
It's not meant to ignore anything else going on in the world, but the world desperately... We could probably use a little less focus on news all the time right now. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think everybody would welcome back sports a little bit, for sure. But
I'd watch anything at this. I'd watch basketball. I'd watch hockey. I'd watch almost anything as long as it's an American sport.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that I think also what's funny though is that the one sport that we're not going to get that's been long touted as America's sport is baseball. It looks less and less likely that we are going to get a baseball season this year. Rob Manfred about 4 days ago promised 100% that we were going to get baseball this year. 2 days ago, though, the MLBPA walked away from the negotiating table saying we are not going to accept the owner's latest offer, and we refuse now to make a counteroffer. So it looks very much like, now for the second time in 25 years, there will be no World Series because the players and owners cannot come to an agreement on money issues. Now, in the last offer, just so that you're all aware, the owners put forward a 76-game schedule. The players would receive 70% of their prorated salary. So that's not 70% of their salary. That's 70%. 70% of
prorated salary
of their prorated salary, which basically means what they would get paid for 76 games. So that actually equates to only 30% of what they would actually have made this year. Now, again, I just don't understand why they just aren't paid for the games they're played. Yeah. 76 games is almost 50%. You pay them 50%. And that's it. I just don't understand.
I will give you a great metaphor right now, okay? Because I've been thinking of ways to try and, what's the metaphor? What's the comparison, okay? This is the comparison. Let's say you work in a restaurant, right? You work in a pizza place. You're Italian. You love pizza. You had pizza for dinner. You work in a pizza place. You make pizzas, man. You make the best pizza in Los Angeles. People come to your restaurant for pizza. They sit down. The environment's great. They want to have pizza. They love your pizza. They're a fan, if you will, of your location, what you stand for, and the city you represent. Okay? COVID-19 happens. All of a sudden, Ray, they can't come to the restaurant anymore.
Yep.
People say you're not allowed to go to Ray's Ballpark Pizza Restaurant anymore. You can't go there. Okay? So what does Ray do? Ray goes, okay, you know what? I'm going to have to go to delivery or curbside pickup. I'm going to find a way. But Ray, you got all these employees that play the game. They make the pizza. You need these guys to make the pizza, right? Yeah. You're only making 50% as much pizza because you can't make all the pizza anymore because of the COVID situation. So we just say the amount of game days of pizza making has reduced. All right? So your employees look at you and you don't go, well, I'm only going to pay you 50% because we're only making 50% more pizza. Okay, what you might say, Ray, is, listen, I'm going to reduce your hours because we don't need people here that much, but I'm going to pay you the same amount I would normally for the hours that you do work.
Yeah.
Because people need their freaking pizza.
Yeah.
Okay? That's the metaphor. I'm a business owner. I wouldn't tell my employees, I'm going to prorate your salary and give you 30%, but please work just as freaking hard as you did before.
It's
doing everything I have right now not to curse. I want you to know that. Okay?
Yeah.
All right? How can you be so out of touch right now with everything? That is exactly what people are thinking. And you know what? I usually don't take people's side on this because I have seen the backside of professional sports. But the fans are right. You are completely out of touch with the world around you right now. Completely out of touch. I'm talking to the owners of Major League Baseball. Players are probably slightly out of touch. Okay?
Yeah.
The owners, you are completely out of touch. This is I'm talking as a business person now. This is the greatest branding opportunity in the history of baseball. And you are blowing it because you are stupid as hell. This is the greatest branding opportunity in the history of professional sports. Why do you think the NHL jumped and got there first? Because they know they needed to be first because they are not a top 3 sport. They're probably not a top 6 sport. They knew it. We have to be the first damn league back because people will watch whatever's on. Why do you think Dana White was like, I'm going to find a private island and buy it and get back on? Why do you think the NBA is going to Disney World?
Yep.
Are you serious, baseball? How stupid are you morons? How out of touch are you? I said this last episode. You are no longer America's pastime if you don't figure this out. I will never refer to you as that again. And I encourage other people never to refer them as that again. I'm not saying you shouldn't watch baseball ever again when it comes back. I understand what it's like to love a sport and have it go away. Hockey fan, I've seen lockouts in my lifetime.
Yeah.
You are no longer America's pastime. Okay? Somehow the NFL, which has done everything possible to screw that up, will get that title now.
Yeah.
Okay? Which is incredible.
It is incredible,
Idiots.
but even the NFL has woken up on certain things. Like it's just like
Idiots.
that's how bad baseball has gotten. And honestly, baseball for the longest time might have been my number one sport. I don't know if I'll go back immediately after this.
Right, this is what kills me. I'm going to say this. This is going to be one of our segments this week because I'm having a blow up, which doesn't happen.
I have marked the time codes.
I have spent years listening to subpar NHL fans rip on the NHL for everything they're doing wrong. And I know these people out there, and they're huge baseball fans. How can you treat that sport the same way when they're doing this? You have, I mean, you can go back so far in the past of baseball for how many times they've messed up. And people could say that with every sports league. I just watched 61, the movie about Roger Maris. I don't know why. But I watched that movie the other day, how they put an asterisk on his 61 because he didn't do it as many games as Ruth, and how the guy had to die before they changed it, so he never even knew that he had that. Then you get the Maguire and the Sosa, and then it just you got another lockout and missed season. I mean, how many times do you have to break my heart? And you've done it 2 times in less than 12 months. It's unbelievable to me. And you're trying to do it again with the Yankees right now, which we're going to get to in a minute. Don't worry. But it's just like, what? What do you? I don't understand. I don't understand. I'm a sports executive, and I don't understand this. And don't tell me it's freaking complicated. Bite the bullet, get your damn players on the field, come to a damn conclusion, and put baseball out there. I'm going to say this again. The single greatest professional sports branding opportunity in the history of man and womankind. And you are missing it because you're idiots. Somebody tell me I'm wrong. Somebody comment below and tell me that I'm wrong.
I don't think you're wrong, buddy. I think you're pretty much spot on, and I couldn't have said it better myself. Because when I heard about this yesterday, that the MLBPA walked away from the table, thank goodness I was in my car just by myself driving around just to get out of the house, because I was swearing up a storm, and I think my neighbors would have called the cops on me. My God. I was so furious.
Here's the other thing, too. And one of our listeners, Dan Saunders, always talks about this with government. You have no outside-the-box ideas on how you could have the revenue come in? Because I hear the problem is, well, there's no fans, so there's no revenue. You have in the digital age we live in, you have not one outside-the-box idea of how you could sell a digital season ticket for $100 or less or whatever more to give some fan, a Yankees fan, exclusive coverage inside the dugout at every game with player interviews, and you can interact with the players. You have no outside the box ideas on making the MLB a better experience. Nothing. Well, you idiots.
Especially with like all the VR tech right now and everything.
Unbelievable.
Like, it's just it's a travesty. And unfortunately, baseball may die because of this, because a lot of people were very slow to come back after '94. I think they're going to be even slower to come back after this.
They needed steroids to get them back.
Yeah.
Let's be honest about it. That's what C-League did.
Yep.
Again, I'm outside the ethics of it, brilliant.
Yeah.
All right, take the ethics out of it. It's a brilliant move to have the home run race come back. All right? But, like, you have no outside-the-box ideas. You're kidding me right now. Even the NBA has a virtual ticket where you can put a helmet on and watch a game. That's
what I'm saying. Like, why aren't you doing the same? Just do that. Look at what other leagues are doing and do that.
Just crap. I know change comes slow in those industries, and I understand it. I understand why. You had an opportunity. Even if you come back now, it's too late. All right?
Yeah.
It is insulting to sports fans. All right, it's insulting to the athletes.
Yeah.
Okay? We've been saying for decades that their salaries are too bloated.
Yep.
Okay? The prioritization is wrong. You have a society now that has completely understood that, by the way, that doctors and teachers and nurses and first responders deserve a little more pay.
Yeah.
And you guys are arguing about money. You idiots. You idiots. The NHL, the NBA could have just canceled it and been done with it and not paid their players. They found a way to fix it.
Yep.
I have no fear the NFL will not be playing.
Yeah.
Are you serious, right? I cannot believe this. And then you're hearing things about, well, they're playing their own stadiums. Why? Why would you need to play in Yankee Stadium right now? Go play in Florida.
Yep.
Just
it's okay.
I like I said, I am not a hardcore baseball fan. I love baseball, love my Phillies. I enjoy watching baseball from time to time. I really love going to baseball games. I'll tell you that right away. If you are a hardcore baseball fan and you want it and you want to go back, I get it. I really do. Okay? But you're losing me here. Okay? Yeah. You're losing me. I'll probably watch the Phillies, but I don't really care. I mean, I just, again, as a business person, as a sports person, as a former athlete, and as a coach, I'm disgusted on all four fronts. It's just like, my God. Anyway, let us know what you think. Comment below. Anyway, Ray, I'm sorry. I'm talking a lot more than I'm letting you talk, and I apologize. I don't get this at all.
Yeah, no, I mean, You pretty much said everything I wanted to say. I'm pretty much.
And let me tell you one more thing. No, I'm just kidding. That was just
pretty much. I mean,
yeah,
you hit the nail on the head.
Oh.
I mean, that's all we can do. I mean, we've got more disgusting things in baseball though, so don't. Hopefully, you're not completely done yet. Speaking of this, it's a good thing if baseball does come back this year. One guy who might not come back is Angel Hernandez. Now, anybody who's watched baseball the past decade knows that Angel Hernandez is probably one of the worst umpires. I know we talk about an umpire who wants the spotlight shown on himself. This is the guy who loves throwing people out, loves getting confrontational, and has one of the least consistent strike zones.
He's a
in
massive
baseball.
Distraction.
Yes.
Put it that way.
He is awful. And now, supposedly, he was caught eavesdropping on a private conversation between the league and the umpire union, and now they might kick him out for that. So, it wasn't years of bad umpiring, but he might have... the one call he should have missed, he didn't, and now he might get kicked out. He might lose his job for it. So, we can only hope that baseball does the right thing and fires Angel Hernandez, the worst umpire in the past 10 years.
Let me tell you this before we get into the next story, which I know what it is about sign stealing, okay?
Yeah.
Because it's another story I'm going to have a lot to say on. This is the truth for everybody listening, okay? When you work in sports, you have to be very careful, okay? Because when you get deeper and deeper into the behind-the-scenes stuff, you can start to lose fandom because it becomes a job, and you start to see how political things are. Okay, and make no mistake, when you go behind the scenes of any league, it is extremely political, okay? To the point is it will blur your fandom out the window. I've been there in hockey for a while. There was a time period, a lot of people don't know this, there was a time period I had a hard time watching hockey because I was working it every day, so I didn't want to watch it. In fact, it was just a few years ago I started watching it like a lot again. All right, but like Ray will tell you this, when I worked at the NHL, I watched games when I was working, obviously, but I didn't watch hockey too much outside of work because I was just around it all the time. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So when you get behind the scenes and stuff, it can change things. But I want to tell you guys that because there's so much politics behind the surface, and they're bubbling up in baseball to the point we can all see it, and that's not good. That's not a good thing. You don't see the politics of the NHL. You don't see the politics of the NBA. They're there. Yeah. All right. The NFL has unfortunately kind of shown itself, but they've made up for it in a lot of ways. Baseball is just bubbling up. It's just this volcano about to erupt. It's going to blow up everything. Speaking of blowing up everything, Ray's going to bring up a story now. I think a lot of people are going to be surprised with our take on this, Ray.
Yeah, I think maybe. So the Yankees and the Red Sox were a few years ago fined for what they found to be improper use of the bullpen phones. I guess certain pitchers or guys were had picked up on signs and were also kind of trying to help relay certain things. But the league had cracked down on this. They found it to be a minor thing and a one-time thing only. Between the two teams, and it happened at Fenway in particular. The couple of players I think who were involved were fined. It wasn't as big a deal. Also, though, excuse me, the Yankees were found, and many other teams have been found to be recording other teams and watching the signs a catcher puts up, and as is common and in baseball practice for many, many, many years, when a guy reaches second base, if you don't change signs, the guy on second can see the catcher, and he will signal to the batter what the pitch is. This has been in baseball for decades.
Probably longer.
It's part of the game,
yes.
Right? Everybody knows about... Look, here's the thing. There's one thing about stealing signs, in terms of recording them live into a dugout.
Yes.
And then signaling to each hitter with a buzzer or a trash can. There's another thing when a guy gets a double, reaches second base, and because he's been watching tape and has memorized the signs of a catcher and a pitcher, that he then relays to a hitter, this is what they're doing. One is film study. The other is cheating.
Yes. Yes, and I'm going to agree with Ray on this. And when this came up, so Ray, I don't know if you know this, but the Phillies have actually been implicated in this too now. And the reason I'm telling you that in the audience is because when this came up, I actually told Ray, if the Phillies are doing this too, I'm still okay with it. And I'm saying that because I don't want people to think I'm defending it because the Phillies are in this now. I said this before the Phillies were even outed. Here's the deal. I'm going to say this again, as Ray just said. I do not agree with if you are recording signs live and communicating those signs somehow through trash cans or electrical devices or anything like that live in the game, that is cheating. Okay? That is cheating. If someone watches game tape, by the way, which is available everywhere because every game is recorded and there's an HD camera on the catcher's hand.
Yeah.
Okay? That's just being an astute baseball person, okay? If I'm a pitcher or I'm a hitter, I'm going to watch everything I can to learn the signs. That's part of the game, okay? You should not be able to know the signs on first base, okay? And you should not be watching the live broadcast in the dugout. But if you're on second base and you've done your homework, there's nothing wrong with that, okay? That is no different than Tom Brady watching the defense for the team week to week to week to try and learn and pick up everything that he possibly can to give himself an advantage. With that said, it is not the same as a camera trained on the Philadelphia Eagles scorecard in the Super Bowl when they're playing and then telling the defense what play they're going to run. That's cheating.
Yes.
Okay? But let us know what you think below. Is this cheating, doing homework, watching old video, making sure you're learning the signs? Also, Ray and I also talked about, if you're a baseball team and you're not changing what your signs are inning by inning, you're probably dumb at this point.
Yeah.
Okay, that's part of the game. It's part of the game. In fact, I think it's a cool part of the game that takes a lot of discipline.
Yeah, to learn all those signs. And again, it is something that really has been part of the game. People have been trying to steal signs from the catcher since catcher started putting down signs. Yeah, it's part of baseball. It's when you use technology to go beyond that when things
if you want that to go away, you need to be able to have the pitcher and the catcher communicate through some sort of walkie-talkie system in their helmets like football does.
Yes.
It's not a crazy idea. With that said, no, they should not do that.
Well, especially because the hitter's standing right next to the catcher most of the time.
Can you imagine that? I don't throw fastball here. Throw fastball. Yo, throw fastball. Okay, throw fastball. Guys, what you throwing? Nothing. Curveball. Knuckleball. Every pitcher's a knuckleball. But you just said fastball. Did we?
Yeah.
How do you know fastball doesn't mean changeup?
Yeah.
Oh, you guys got me now. Pitcher comes back in. Wait, are we throwing a fastball or a changeup? You know what we're supposed to do. I said fastball, you throw changeup. I said fastball, you throw changeup. So you're throwing a changeup. No, it's throwing the damn fastball. God darn it, man. You know the signs. I told you. What are we going to do? Candlesticks. Get him candlesticks for his wedding.
Oh, goodness. But, yes, so that's our take. Let us know what you guys think below. But, yeah. But that does it for this week's episode of Geeks Who Like Sports. We unfortunately don't have a mashup today, so
we could do one if you really want to. I come up with these things on the fly. The question is, we're about an hour and a half in.
Yeah.
Do you want to do one or not?
I think we can let the folks go without a mashup this week.
Okay, fine. If you're disappointed, comment below. Like I said,
yes.
I am the mashup maker. I am the mashup overlord. Every week I come up with one. I came up with one real quick, Ray, but we won't do it.
You want to do the mashup?
Well, I have the idea now.
Well, you have the idea?
Okay, well, kind of.
What's the idea?
Well, the idea would be if you could take one geek franchise and steal the signs and put it into another geek franchise, what would it be?
Ooh.
See, it's a good one, isn't it? See how I come up with these things?
Yeah.
I'm going to do the obvious one. I'm taking Batman and I'm putting him into Marvel.
Yeah, I mean, that's
where he belongs.
Yeah, right? I mean, that would make a lot of sense.
And then I'm making the Joker a Superman villain.
There you go. That could be fun.
Okay, I hate to separate the Joker from Batman, but the truth is this. The Joker is Batman's weakness, and I'm tired of it.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine Batman fighting, say, any MCU villain?
Yeah.
Actually, how about Batman versus Iron Man? That would be an awesome battle.
That would be awesome. That would be tremendous. That would be fantastic.
Yes. See? Do you have one ready or not? You can pick anything you want.
Oh God, see, this is hard because I'm thinking about like all my favorite franchises and stuff.
This is why I come up with them on the fly.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
I am a producer. I produce.
he's
I'm
good.
better at the MLB than this. All right.
I mean, the obvious one is kind of like because they're two of my favorites is the mix up like Halo and Gears of War, but like I don't know, it almost seems too obvious.
But yeah, steal. So like I'm stealing Batman and I'm putting him into the MCU.
Yeah,
you
know
have
what
to
would be
steal something. Can't just be a merger. Yeah, steal it.
Steal. How about steal? Oh gosh.
I got another one. If you need.
Yeah, stall. Go.
If you need to think,
Stall
okay.
for me.
Okay. So this was one some of you might have to look up. But okay, we all know Deadpool. Deadpool's usually disqualified from mashups. Not today.
Yes.
I'm not stealing Deadpool, Ray. I'm stealing my other favorite character that's like Deadpool. I'm taking Booster Gold out of the DCU, and I'm making Booster and Deadpool in a comic book together, which would be the greatest comic book ever with their pal Skeets. Can you imagine Deadpool dealing with Skeets, who knows the future of mankind? It would be unbelievable. Okay, it would be unbelievable.
Yeah.
I've got
one.
Okay, Ray has one, and unlike the baseball season, you're going to get this now.
Yeah. Star Wars is going to steal Samus Aran. Samus Aran is going to become a bounty hunter in Star Wars.
That's really good.
That's
really good.
Because she's a bounty hunter.
Yeah, no, that's really, really good. That's really, really good.
Thank you.
That's a good one. That's a good strong geek one.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Deep cut there. Yeah.
Yeah. So NHL 2020 is going to steal Jeremy Roenick from NHL 94.
Oh.
Yeah.
That would be fascinating.
They're going to steal him, and then he's going to be ejected from the game for making off-camera comments.
Oh, goodness. All right. Yeah. Well, on that note, let us know below what you guys would like to see. This actually turned into a pretty good mashup. Let us know. Yeah, I know. Credit where it's due. As the TIE Fighters flying around. Yeah, what geek thing what geek franchise could steal something else from another geek franchise and create and
put it in the canon.
Mix it up a little bit. So So Samus Aran is being plucked from Metroid and being put into the Star Wars universe as a bounty hunter.
Yes.
Skeets and Booster Gold.
Yeah, I like that. I like that one. That's way more geeky. The Skeets and Booster Gold. If you don't know who Booster Gold is, please look him up. He's a great character.
Yes.
Ray knows. I just love that character for some reason. There's something about him. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
I probably because he's me.
Yeah.
It's just kind of corny and smart ass, and
yeah.
He's got a little buddy that follows him around and just tells him, I have a little buddy. It's not Ray. His name's Travis, but we'll talk about it.
Has he shaved his man bun yet?
Nope. Well, he can't get a haircut, to be fair to him. So like
just cut that off.
Well, okay, he has the man. So this is my employee. He's a really good friend of mine, Travis. He has a man bun. It looks ridiculous, but to be fair to him, he hasn't gotten a haircut, and this keeps the hair out of his eyes. So it's a necessity. He's just living. All right, I do have a video of me chasing him around with scissors, though, which you're not supposed to do unless you have a man bun. Yeah. I'm going to steal Travis's man bun and give it back to nobody.
Well, no, I was going to say you're going to take his man bun and you can put it on your head. So you have hair again.
I've accepted the baldness, brother. I've accepted it. I've accepted this. Bald is beautiful.
Bald is beautiful.
All right, check this out. What's weird for those of you listening is that we made a video in which I do that. I go, bald is beautiful, and I point at the camera, and it was made into a GIF, and it is I'm shocked. The number one GIF when you search bald on any GIF maker now. So apparently I'm a famous GIF. Never thought that's what it would be in my entire life. I am gonna put back on my officially licensed Geeks Who Like Sports hat though, which we don't sell, so I'm not saying this, but we can if you're interested. I'm Lee Elias, and for the low price of whatever we charge, you too can have one of these hats and avoid baldness. That's my part of the episode. I'm signing off now. We'll see you next week on Geeks Who Like Sports and Hats.
Well, like Lee said, this is the end of the episode. Thank you all for listening, staying tuned. As always, check out the Facebook group, the Twitter, the Instagram. Email us, geekswholikesports@gmail.com, or Ray or Lee at geekswholikesports.com. Check out the website, geekswholikesports.com, and of course, you can listen to the podcast wherever podcasts are heard. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Until next week, for Lee, I'm Ray. Thanks for listening to Geeks Who Like Sports, episode number 61. Good night, everybody.